Electric automobiles, while promising, have not caused the expected revolution. Sustainable vehicles are not the global preference. This reality persists in the crisis of the Brazilian automotive industry. Today we will talk about the decline of the automotive market and the reasons for the failure of electric cars. The bold plans for sustainable vehicles. Global warming is a worldwide concern. Organizations such as the UN highlight annually the importance of preserving the environment to minimize climate change. However, today's society is still heavily dependent on sources of pollution, such as gasoline and diesel cars. Thus, the challenge arises to balance this dependency with the need to reduce harmful emissions. Electric and hybrid vehicles emerge as a solution, as they do not emit harmful gases. Companies and governments have ambitious plans for these eco-friendly vehicles to dominate the world fleet. Some believe that by 2035, they will completely replace combustion cars, prohibiting the production of models that emit CO2. However, reaching this goal seems to be a distant dream. Electric cars have not conquered the market as expected. Even industry leaders like Elon Musk face obstacles. In addition, the prolonged crisis in the automotive industry, including the Brazilian market, reflects a clear dilemma. In Europe, a leader in the promotion of these vehicles, there are difficulties in making these goals a concrete reality. Thus, completely replacing combustion vehicles with sustainable options by 2035 is a challenging target in the face of current problems. Europe's exhaustive exploitation. Have you ever wondered why Europe, which is composed of developed nations, has such a great concern for the environment and climate change? The answer lies in the peculiar trajectory of these countries' economic development. There is a theory that environmental degradation tends to grow at the beginning of the economic development process but later decreases as the nation becomes wealthier. In other words, to achieve wealth, it was necessary to exploit the environment intensively. But once the goal of prosperity was reached, these countries are in a position to correct their mistakes. Europe is an example of this, being a continent that exhaustively exploited the environment on its path to economic development. Now, regretting it, Europe seeks to repair its environmental damage and demands that less developed nations, such as Brazil, follow suit. European leaders who aspire to a more sustainable world aim for a quick transition from combustion vehicle fleets to electric vehicles. A notable example is the European Union, which, at the end of 2022, enacted a law banning the sale of new gasoline and diesel cars from 2035, intending to accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles on the continent. European countries agreed to require automakers to reduce CO2 emissions by 100% by 2035, effectively preventing the sale of new vehicles powered by fossil fuels in their area from that date. The ideal European plan is that in just 12 years, these cars will dominate the roads. Although 12 years may seem a long time, Europe realized that it was too ambitious. In March of 2023, the continent reconsidered its decision and abandoned the ban on combustion cars from 2035, understanding that it was too tight a target. To maintain its image, Europe decided that, in addition to electric vehicles, those powered by synthetic fuels could also be sold after the original deadline, in the next decade. Currently, European countries face a different dilemma regarding these electric cars. China has flooded the European market with these more accessible cars, making competition difficult for European manufacturers in their own countries. China has several manufacturers backed by government incentives for both the industry and consumers. In response to this situation, the European Commission announced a formal investigation into Chinese subsidies, claiming that the global market is saturated with cheap Chinese cars artificially kept low by state support. This distorts the European market, according to the world's leading economic bloc. In summary, Europe wants more electric cars, but preferably made by European companies. Does this really contribute to a better world? The answer is evident. Chinese automakers are gearing up to increase sales in Europe, offering more affordable products compared to their European counterparts. If the plans of the Chinese brands succeed, automotive groups like Stellantis and Volkswagen, which sell affordable electric cars in Europe, will be severely impacted. and the situation could worsen if the Chinese company BYD intensifies its presence in Europe. BYD, China's largest manufacturer, represents a significant challenge for the major global automakers, including Elon Musk's Tesla. In the third quarter of 2023, only 3,000 units separated BYD's sales from Tesla's in the global electric car market. Elon Musk's reign in the sector that he helped popularize with his Tesla models is under threat. BYD recorded an impressive growth of 204.7% in its profits in the first half of 2023 compared to the same period last year. In all segments, BYD is the fourth largest automaker in the world, behind only Toyota, Volkswagen, and Honda. BYD's remarkable growth is also evident in Brazil. However, the company may face considerable challenges due to the Brazilian government's intention to increase taxes on vehicles. BYD, the leader in electrics. In 2023 to date, sales of electricity-powered vehicles in Brazil have seen an increase of 120% compared to the same period in 2022. Who leads this advance in the electric scene in Brazilian lands? The answer is clear: BYD. In September, a total of 1,830 electric vehicles were sold in Brazil. This number represents an increase of 56.8% compared to August, thus establishing a record for monthly sales in this category. The best-selling vehicle, the BYD Dolphin, a hatchback produced by the Chinese manufacturer BYD, reached the mark of 1,036 units plated in the month, demonstrating a considerable advantage compared to the second place, the Yuan Plus, which registered 145 units sold. It is worth noting that the Yuan Plus is also a BYD product. It is relevant to note that the Dolphin's sales, combined, surpassed those of all other models in the same segment. However, an important question arises regarding the exemption from import tax applied to electric and hybrid vehicles. In force for 5 years with the aim of stimulating the development of this sector in Brazil, this exemption is about to end. The Ministry of Development and Industry confirmed that the tax will be reintroduced, justifying that such a measure aims to promote local production of electric vehicles. Like Europe, Brazil seeks to protect its local producers at the expense of the environment. The reintroduction of this tax faces the resistance of companies that import electrified vehicles, such as BYD. Currently, import tax rates are 0% for electric vehicles and up to 4% for hybrids, while combustion engine vehicles pay a rate of 35%. For comparison, in the first 8 months of 2023, 49,000 registrations of light electrified vehicles were recorded, which is equivalent to the amount registered during the year 2022. BYD is against the return of this tax, arguing that the electric vehicle market is still in its infancy in Brazil. Prematurely taxing electric and hybrid vehicles is a setback that harms the technological advancement of the local industry. It is unfair to tax up to 35% a sector that represents less than 1% of total car sales in the country, equivalent to a death sentence for it. Moreover, it is valid to question whether Brazil really needs more taxes. The national automotive industry has been facing an unprecedented crisis since 2020, with vehicle prices constantly rising and factories closing. This situation was aggravated by the shortage of semiconductors, essential components for vehicle manufacturing. Without these semiconductors, there is no production of cars. The shortage of these components resulted in exorbitant price increases for vehicles, due to the simple law of supply and demand. This scenario discourages the purchase of automobiles, especially those requiring long-term financing. In 2023, the situation remains unchanged, as several automakers have closed factories due to this great excess of stock. The federal government tried to revitalize this sector through discount programs, but the results were insignificant. The electrified vehicle industry has significant potential in a world that seeks greater harmony with the environment and the preservation of quality of life. However, it is crucial to understand that these vehicles do not represent a magical solution to the issue of fossil fuels. 10 years from now, there will still be a considerable number of combustion-powered vehicles in the world, continuing as the majority. The transition to a fully electrified global fleet will take time, not happening overnight, and this reality is becoming increasingly evident in today's world. So, what do you think about this European strategy to ban BYD? Comment below and don't forget to check out what others are saying too.